This is a terrifying story that happened to my mom's friend years ago, and it still haunts me to this day. Back when I was still in my mother's womb, her friend Tanya was known for her radiant personality and beautiful long black hair. She lived close to a big towering tree where crows often made their nests. Every afternoon when it was time to eat, Tanya would sit by her open window, enjoying her meal as the hot summer breeze drifted in. But one day, something changed. A crow landed on the windowsill and just watched her. Its eyes locked onto hers, unmoving. She thought it was hungry, so she started feeding it, and that turned into something she did every day. At first, it seemed harmless, but one evening, things took a strange turn. Tanya had just showered, and the heat was so intense that she left her hair wet and hanging loose down her back. There were only 4 people in the house that night: Tanya, her cousin, her brother, and his friend. Her parents were out of town for surgery. That night, she ate dinner, but her hunger was insatiable. It was like she hadn't eaten in days. The next day, she was bedridden with a burning fever. And when it finally broke, things got worse. Tanya began eating massive amounts of food, enough for several people. And at night, that's when the real horror began. She started roaming the house, opening the refrigerator, smashing bottles, dragging chairs, knocking on walls. It was as if she wasn't in control anymore. The doctors called it sleepwalking, but her family knew better. Then one day, my mother went to visit. What she saw was burned into her memory. 7 or 8 people were inside Tanya's bedroom, desperately trying to hold her down. She was thrashing with such strength they could barely manage her. That was the last time my mother dared to interfere. Eventually, Tanya was brought to a priest. He placed his hands on her shoulders and began praying. As he did, a deep, guttural voice erupted from her mouth. He asked, "How many of you are in there?" And that voice replied,
7. There are 7 of us inside her.
The priest was horrified. "Why did you enter her?" The voice answered,
She cared for us, she fed us, we're taking her to the underworld.
That's when he realized the truth. The crows weren't just birds, they were spirits. And when she laughed, when her long, wet hair hung down her back, that's when they took their chance. The ghosts warned the priest Tanya would never marry, never have children, and if she tried, tragedy would follow. The priest threatened them, he prayed with power, and in time, they left. Before Tanya went home, he gave her a protective object and warned her, "Never lose this, never take it off," he said. Years passed, Tanya married. In 2014, she became pregnant but lost the baby. Again in 2018, and once more in 2022. Every time, a miscarriage. In the end, they gave up and adopted a child. But even now, they do not live in peace. I sincerely hope nothing more happens to Tanya, but some things, they never let go. This story might not be the scariest you've ever heard, but even now, it still gives me chills. It happened when I was just a kindergartner. My school was a 2-story building, and on this particular day, this happened during recess. My friends and I had just finished eating snacks we bought from the canteen, and we ran out to play on the playground. But after a while, we got bored and decided to play hide and seek. It was the last round of the game, and one of my friends suggested we go up the left side stairs of the building to hide. But once we got there, everyone chickened out. They said it was too creepy. But I wasn't scared, so I decided to go up alone. I made my way up the stairs, and at the top, there was just one door. As the seeker started counting down, 10, 9, 8, I turned the doorknob, opened the door inward, and stepped inside. The room was dusty, like it hadn't been touched in years. Chairs were scattered and tipped over, and cobwebs hung in the corners. I sat down in a spot near the door, crouched low, and scanned the room. That's when I noticed it. Red splatters on the walls, dripping. It smelled awful, like something rotting under layers of dust. There was a blackboard at the front of the room, and on it were smudged handprints, streaked in the same red color. It should have been a red flag, but at the time, I thought it was just old paint, so I stayed. A few minutes passed. It was quiet, almost too quiet. Then I heard it, a noise from the closet. A thump, a shift, a rustle. I froze in fear, but I was just a kid. I didn't want to find out what it was, so I just ran out of the room and found my friends. I was happy I'd won the game. They hadn't found me, and soon recess was over. Back in class, one of my friends leaned over and asked me where I had been hiding. She said they had been calling my name over and over, but I never answered. I told her I was hiding upstairs, in that room on the left side of the building. She looked at me like I was crazy. Then she said something that haunted me for a very long time. She said,
"That room's been locked for years."
Apparently, the key was lost a long time ago, and no one ever found it. Everyone who tried that door said it was always locked. So, how did I open it? How did I walk right in without a key? And those noises in the closet? What was inside that room with me? And the handprints? Looking back now, they didn't look like paint. They looked like blood. Hi, I'm Jess. I'm 17 now, but I was 15 when this happened. We had just moved to Siquijor, an island in the Philippines, known for its witches and strange, unsettling happenings. My mom had warned me about its reputation, but nothing could have prepared me for what I experienced. When we arrived, there were only 4 other houses nearby, scattered along a lonely road. We settled in quickly. A few months passed without incident until one night I noticed something very strange. One of our neighbor's dogs was sitting perfectly still in the middle of the road, staring into the darkness to the right. It was midnight, and he looked like he was waiting for something or someone. Every now and then, he would bark into the night, a low, fearful bark. I looked around, expecting to see someone walking down the road, but there was no one. I checked on my own dog too, curious if he sensed anything unusual, but he was sound asleep, curled up peacefully. Eventually, I brushed it off and went back to bed. A few days went by with nothing, but then one night, it felt like everything changed. I was up late watching K-dramas in my room around 1 or 2 a.m. when I heard a loud scream, a distant, desperate cry for help. At first, I thought it was just a neighbor having a bad dream, but as I sat on my bed, glued to the screen, I felt it. Someone walking outside the house. When I looked toward the window, I noticed the motion sensor light outside kept flickering on and off, but no one was there. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe it was just the wind or a branch blowing past the sensor. But deep down, I felt that something was wrong. Then I heard the voice again, closer this time. It was low, almost a whisper, impossible to tell if it belonged to a man or a woman. Panic crept into my chest. My dog, who had been silent, suddenly began barking. Soft at first, almost confused, like he didn't understand why he was the only one reacting. None of the other dogs in the neighborhood made a sound. Terrified, I grabbed my phone and used the flashlight to check on my mom and sister, who were fast asleep in the living room. I thought about waking my mom up, but I knew she would dismiss it and tell me to go back to bed. Instead, I checked the back door to see if my dog was okay. He looked different, stiff, his tail low, ears pinned back, staring into the empty road. I followed his gaze. The road was deserted. There was only a single streetlight barely illuminating the dense darkness beyond. All the neighbors' houses were pitch black, no lights on, no sounds. I was the only one awake, the only one hearing that chilling call for help. I barely slept that night, lying frozen in bed until morning. When the sun finally rose, I realized I must have dozed off at some point. I rushed to find my mom and told her everything. As I finished my story, her face paled. She told me that her aunt had called earlier that morning with devastating news. One of my mom's cousins had passed away that night from a sudden heart attack. The same night, I heard the voice calling for help. My mom believed it was her cousin's spirit. lost, confused, still clinging to life, and that the cries I heard were her soul pleading for help, unable to accept what had happened. Since that night, nothing like that has ever happened again, but I still wonder, what was it that I actually heard that night? Growing up in India, we moved around a lot because of my father's job. At one point, we settled into a new house, a small place with only 2 rooms and a tiny veranda at the back. The veranda connected directly to the road, so anyone walking by could easily access it. Soon after moving in, we hired a housekeeper. At first, everything seemed normal, but after a while, she started acting very strange. One day, my mother went into the bathroom to grab something and caught the housekeeper doing something odd near the toilet. When my mother asked her what she was doing, she quickly said she was cleaning. But my mother was sure that she wasn't. There was something off about her posture, something she couldn't explain. Not long after that, we discovered a creepy drawing on the veranda. It showed 4 black figures, 2 large ones and 2 smaller ones. Clearly, it represented our family, my parents, my sister, and me. My mother, furious and alarmed, grabbed a bucket of water and washed the strange drawing away. But almost immediately after that, random chance injuries and accidents started happening to us. Both my parents caught chickenpox. My sister fell off a swing and got a deep gash across her face, and my leg, as I'm pretty short, got caught in the spokes of a bicycle wheel. We began to grow very suspicious of our housekeeper. We were convinced that the housekeeper was somehow involved. My parents decided to fire her and send her away. But the story doesn't end there. One night, as I was lying in bed, I saw something that made my blood run cold. A woman with a long ponytail that looked exactly like the housekeeper's hair poked her head out from the hallway near the living room and just stared at me. I was so terrified that I sprinted to the bedroom without even looking back. A few days later, we found out that the housekeeper's husband had been in an accident and broken his leg. And her children? They were constantly falling sick after she left our home. We wasted no time. We moved out of that horrible house as quickly as we could. After we left, things definitely got better. But even today, I wonder, what exactly did the housekeeper do?